Welcome back, CSC 200, to part 4 of our EX7B SpongeBob database insert. And we have most of our code completed, and now we're just going to kind of test things and start inserting different records into our database. But first we want to make sure that everything's working. Now, a couple things here. Save it. If you haven't saved it, save it. Look at your code, whether you're in brackets or Atom. Check out the color if you see any odd looking colors or anything. Make sure that you have the close connection that I had down here. Make sure you have semicolons. Don't get messed up with semicolons. Make sure you get your semicolons done. So there's semicolons after everything. You don't need them after curly brackets. All my statements have semicolons, so I don't want to get messed up with semicolons. So everything looks okay, and I think everything up here was working so far because we were connected. Now, to test it, we got to be careful about testing. So I could go back to, let's see, this is the page that was getting tested. Now, if I display it now, I get query error. Why do I get a query error? I could have a problem. I'm not sure why I have a query, but I'll tell you right away. One of the reasons you do, and I showed it before, is because we're inserting here and there's nothing to insert yet. So what you could do, just to test it before we do anything further, you could just put little slashes in front of here, in front of these top two things. These are the insert stuff, and that way at least you can just see if it displays by just and make sure you know what you're there's a comment, and then these things don't have comments. There's a comment, and then these things don't. So just realize what you're going to take away here. Or actually this one is, well, this one will stay there. So there's only, I think, 3 places where I put extra comments in. So just be careful of what you're doing. So I'm going to save this. And if you want to skip this part, that's fine. You could just watch this, and then when you do it, you don't have to do that part. And then when I go back here, I'm going to refresh it, and I'm getting connected to localhost. It's saying this page is in a different language or something, and I don't know why. And there may be a reason. I may have to put it in the UTF-8 or something, or that, because I don't know if I have an English language set up in my HTML, so that may be something where that's happening. Connected to localhost, connected to SpongeBob database, display database, and now it's saying there's my ID numbers. There's all the people I had in my database so far. Now I don't have my table formatted any special or anything, and there I have, let's see, I have first name, then last name, Patrick Star, Sandy Cheek. So I have everybody in here. There's the species. Now I didn't put headings in here, and if you want to put headings in here, why not? You could throw a heading in here. That was pretty easy to do last time. If you remember, and if you think, oh, how do I do that? Well, just go to your display A. We did a heading last time, and we just actually put it in here. Now I think I don't want to do it for each row. We'd have to be careful of how we do this, because last time we were just displaying on a page, but we wouldn't want to have it as part of that while statement, because then it would actually put a heading for every single row, which we would not want to do. We only want to have one row above all the other ones. So, well, let me just try it, and if it doesn't work, we'll skip it. I don't want to make a big deal about just having a heading on here, because obviously now we have to worry about ID name and last name. There's more of them and stuff like that. But let's try it out. I'll go back to my display B. Now I would have to do that. I believe, I'm not even sure where that would go. I would think I would have to do that before here, and it's not really part of anything. But we'll see if it works. So there's a row that's going before them, and I have first name, last name, species. I'll copy one that's going to be ID. I guess since it's echo, it should go anywhere. The first echo would be ID. And first name, last name, species, and then I would have city. So I'll copy one of these. And I'll put city in there. And I should have 6. Gender, city, species, last, first, ID. And I think that's the order I have it. And then I have it finished here, and then I have this while. So I'm not sure how this will work, but I'll just put a little space in here. We'll see how this works. And while I still have these other things, I'll just save it and see if it works. Either it does or it doesn't. So we'll see. And it kind of works, other than I had to do an align, because I think it by default. Remember in the last one, it actually by default it aligns them center over top of the columns. So I just have to align that, and I remember how to do that. And you could go to your display A to do that, because I think we had that in, I think that was a style in display A, so I could just copy that. TH, there's my TH style. I'll just copy that one. And I used a different font in that one. That's okay. I could copy everything from here. Just make sure it's text align left. That's the main thing. I don't even think we need the bold, because it should do bold automatically. Because notice how it did make it bold automatically because it's a TH. TH should make it bold, so I don't even think I need that. So I'm going to go back here, and where that has to go is in with the styles, in this style tag. So I'll put it right after this one and put it in there. And I'm going to take out font weight bold because I don't think I need it, because I think THs are bold automatically. But I'll change the font family there, and make sure I got semicolons and everything in there. The brackets look okay, and you know, even for CSS they kind of work the same way. And I'll see how that works, and I'll save it, and I'll just update it. And now that looks nicer. I could put a little space after if I wanted to. I could put a little, you know, margin bottom. If you messed with the style, I could go here and put, you know, margin bottom. Here's margin bottom, and I could put something like, you know, like 6 pixels or something. You could put pixels or M or whatever. I'll just put 6 pixels, and I'll save that, and then I'll go back and I'll refresh it, and it did nothing. It did no margin bottom. Let me try padding, just see if that works. If not, I'll just ignore it and we'll just kind of move on. Could be something with a table, but let's see if padding bottom works with the TH. I'll just do that and I'll save. Maybe I just forgot to save it, who knows. So I'll try that out, and there it goes. Oh, so maybe I just forgot to save it or something. So now it seems okay. So if I wanted a little more, I could put a little more in there. If I wanted to go back and, you know, make it, you know, 10 pixels, I could do that. Make sure it's saved, and then I'll refresh it. So that looks okay. You can put it in a color. So that looks okay. So we're just displaying things. Again, we didn't insert anything yet, but things are displaying. So that's good. Everything's working here on our page. And I'm going to go back, and now what I'll do is I'll backspace these comments that I threw in there. And remember here, this one, it was only the one. So this was just a separate line comment. These were all comments that were in here that I just put in here, even though they almost look like code. They were just kind of hints. So there was just one line of code for this one. Because if I take this out, it would probably almost look like code again. So I don't want that, because it's almost the same thing I have here. So I don't want that. It was just like a hint. So I'll put that back. And now everything should be working. And now what I want to do is, I guess, start playing with it. And so what I'll do is I'll go back here, and I'll basically go to EX. I could do this. I could go to EX7, or you could go back to localhost and go right from the beginning. You could go back to localhost, go to EX7, and then this will take you to your index page. That's your first page, and hopefully you changed it so that it goes to display B. And I'll put in a new character, and let me look at my characters. Who am I missing here? Oh, Larry Lobster. I'll put in Larry the Lobster in here. I'll just call him Larry Lobster. I think he's Larry the Lobster, but I'll put in Larry Lobster. So I'll go back here, and I'll put in Larry, and we'll see what happens here. And I'll put last name Lobster, and his species, he's a lobster. And gender, I think we have this set up so if you forget something, it'll give you a little, oh, and it gave me a query error. Let me go back. And try that again. Larry Lobster, and then we'll kind of troubleshoot. But it didn't give me the JavaScript that should kind of force me to put that in. So let me make sure that that's there on that first page. Larry Lobster, species lobster. And the gender is, I'll put male in there, and I'll insert character. And there, that works. So there was something, maybe there's something with the JavaScript in there. So it put Larry Lobster in there, the species is lobster, bikini bottom, and he put a male in there. So it worked. So I can add elements to our database. Now let me just look and see why I originally got a query error for not putting something in there, because I thought we had a JavaScript on our index that was forcing us. I thought we had all, okay, I just realized what I did. When you click the button to run that, it should run this JavaScript. which I already have this in here. And if you have a JavaScript class or you're taking CSE 235, please look at it, because it's helpful to see how we can validate a form. We're probably going to do something like that in that class. But one thing that we have here, it's a function called check fields, but where is the function being run? It's not being run off this button, and where you'd actually have to do it, it's getting run. There's not a button, an actual physical button, but there's a submit button down here. So, but it's not actually running the function. Where you could put that is you could put this in here. I believe we could also just add it to here and put like a on click action. I think we could put this in here, on click equals. See if this works. On click equals, and it should be this check fields, and I'll just copy it so I don't mess it up. And I'll put it right in here in the quotes, and that should work. I think the on click goes in here with the form action. Otherwise, we could put it down here with the button. But I think with an input type button, a submit button, you would actually put that up there. So I think that's going to be okay. So let me save this, and let me just go back and check this out again. And I'll just hit the back button, and I'll refresh. So it's using a new version, and and there it's telling me right away, please enter first name. So if I hit a button here, it's telling me. So although it eventually, I don't know what happened, it eventually got here. But what I want to do here is enter a first name. That's what I'm doing. Smitty. I'll put in, I don't know why that's coming up every time. So I'll have to check that, because I'm not hitting any kind of button. So something's happening there. It's almost kind of running this thing each time. It thinks it's running the function each time. So I'll have to look at that, but let's kind of just go through here. Smitty Werbin. I'll just hit OK. It's not preventing me from doing anything. And then I go here. See, this thing's coming up. So I'll have to take that thing off, because it's getting annoying. And species, I think he was number 1, but I believe he was a fish based on his skeleton. And I believe he was male. So we'll have to fix this thing. I'm not sure why I'm having all these problems with my JavaScript. And now I should be able to insert a new character. And let's hopefully he goes in there. And there he goes. Smitty, Werbin, Jaegerman, Jensen. And they're in there. So, and now let's say this. Let's say you wanted to get rid of these. Now I don't have anything set up to get rid of. So you could, let's say you just tried some out, and then you want to try again, and you put somebody in you don't want. One thing you could do, you could go back to MAMP. Now if you just go to delete, you could if you go to browse again, it'll show you the new ones, and I'll show you what happens here. If I wanted to get rid of these two, I don't know why, but for some reason if I go here delete, I get an error, and it doesn't let me delete them. And you might think, wow, why is that? And you actually have to run an SQL to delete it. And again, I'm not sure why you have to, but at least we know how to do that, because we did that last time. And what you can actually do, rather than typing it all out again, I actually saved this thing as a bookmark. They have a bookmark down here, and I could go into SQL, because you remember how we were always doing get autosave query. That's fine for the last time, but what if there's one you wanted to use? And I could go to, I have one that's saved as a bookmark. It's called delete restart auto. And if I just put view only, I could hit go down here. And what it does is it puts some code in here. And let's take a look at what I have. Now some of this stuff is fairly easy. It's not a big deal. And it says delete from characters. And then I'm putting a condition called where ID is greater than 108. So the two I just put in there, I'm deleting. So anything greater than 108. And there's also this separate part of it. This is a separate statement. So there's two statements here. This is one, if I could move this thing over. I have two statements here. Delete from characters where ID, so I could delete anything I want, but I'm saying where the ID is greater than 108, I don't want to delete them. So that's one statement. The second statement is alter table characters, and then it's just a space. It's showing on a second line, but it's just a space, and it's saying auto increment equals 1. So now it won't go back to 1, it'll go back to whatever the last one was. So if you ever need to restart your numbering at a certain place. Now by default, they try to make it hard for you to do that because, like you said, if you had students at a college and, if someone drops out, they don't give somebody else their ID. You just give them another ID. But for our sake, if you're practicing and you wanted to get rid of ones that you just did, you could run this. Delete from, and then you could do alter table characters auto increment equals 1. And I could copy and paste that somewhere so you could use that. But I actually I bookmarked it in here. You could always bookmark a query and just give it a name. If you just give it a name and hit go, it'll bookmark it for you, and then you could use it again from these bookmarks, which it took me a while to figure out how to use it, but I figured it out. And I'm just going to hit go down here and run this query. And it says OK because it's green, and I'll hit browse, and it should have wiped out those things. And I'm back to Poppy Puff. Now if I go back to here, it's still going to show these until I go back. So I'd actually want to go back here and then refresh again. But let me check out my JavaScript and see why I was having a problem with that. Actually, let me pause and I'll just check it out a little. All right, I looked at my other one and figured out what I did. Because we're using returns in here, and returns in JavaScript, we have to use return when we run the function. Because here we're returning false all the time. So what I have to do up here is I just have to put, instead of just on click, I actually have to put return with a space like that. So it actually returns that function. So I have on click. That's why every time I click into a field, it's doing that. So it's on submit because it should be going when we submit this form, not on click. So that was, again, my mistake, but hey, you learn something from watching my mistakes. So there's on submit. That should work. Let's save that, and hopefully this will work now. Refresh it. Now I click in here and I won't get that. So I'll add somebody else. I'll add, Harry Halibut. I don't know if there's not a halibut, but I'm just going to put in some things. So I'm going to just try to add a whole bunch here. Harry Halibut, and he's a halibut, and you could just make up names or find as many people. One I forgot is I'll put a male in here, and I'll put insert new character, and there's Harry Halibut, and then I'll make sure I put in Larry Lobster, and then I can go back and I could put in Sheldon Plankton. I almost forgot about Plankton. I'll put in Sheldon Plankton, and he is a plankton, and he is male. And I'll insert Sheldon, and he has a wife, and her name is Karen. Okay, I was close on that. So her name's Karen. So I'll go back here. And I'll put Karen, she's like the computer, and I'll put in plankton. And species is, she's a computer, I guess. She's not really a fish. And she's female. And I'll insert her in there. So now I have Karen Plankton computer. So and you can see that, I since I did delete those, I'm starting it at 108. So I don't have, I'm still continuing here. I could just like my other one, I could run the table and put the list there because I have that in the other file that we did, where we could actually put the number that we have in there if we wanted to, so we could figure out how many we have. I'll just ask you to put in a bunch in here. I'm not going to tell you to put how many SpongeBob. Just keep trying to put some in there and think of other ones. Try to get some male and female. You could look them up if you want. But that's basically what you're going to do. And then when you're finished with this file, make sure you save it. Make sure everything's working. Add as many as you can. Now I'm gonna need your. I guess let me think about this. I'm going to need your database. I'm also going to need your files. With this, well, I guess I won't need your database as long as the name is correct. We should be able to. I should just be able to take your files and add things to the database. But I'll let you know what I want from that. But we could always export your database. But I'll definitely want your files because that's going to be where you did most of the work into your code. Okay, so with your files here, what you want to do, you have your index file, and you didn't do much to that other than change display A to display B. And just putting in this on submit return check fields, which we learned a little JavaScript there, and we'll do more of that in the future. But hopefully you got that working. It's not on click, it's on submit, and it needs the return in there. Sorry for not checking that, but then it should work okay. And also remember your display A, you didn't do anything with that, but you could leave it in the folder. Display B, this is where you did most of the work, so this was a lot of work in here, going through these things. And take your time with that, and then make sure everything is saved up. We will have to zip up our EX7 folder, and I'll have you submit that through coursework. That's probably the easiest thing. You could also, other people have shared them on Dropbox or anything like that. If there's other ways where it's easier to do that, you could always email me. These aren't really big files, they're not like Photoshop files. You can always email me zip up the folder and send it as an attachment through email if that's easier, if you have any problem with e-learning. But I'll make sure I check that first, and if you need to email me something, just let me know. Or if you have any questions or have any problems with this, let me know. I'm trying to think what would be the best here with your database, if I need your database or not, but I'll let you know. So if I need you to zip up remember you have to export and then zip up your database and send that to me, then I'll just have you send that to me. And sometimes even just emailing me that as an SQL file, it's just a text file, so they're not big files. So if you exported that and just emailed that to me as well. But I'll let you know in the instructions and the announcements what's the best way to get me your files when you're done. In the meantime, you have a bunch of videos to watch, and some of these are kind of longer than usual. So that's hopefully part 4